Hey, you. You're finally awake.
Oh, shut up, Rayloff.
You were trying to
How
cause
yinz
some
doing?
trouble
Let's
tonight.
not beat around the bush here on this one. You all read the title and thumbnail of this video. We're doing a top 10 list of the playable races here in Skyrim. But before I start listing off the entries, I should go over how I rank the entries here so that when someone disagrees with me, they can make an argument that actually makes sense and isn't just, my favorite isn't number 1. To put it simply, I divided the racial features into 3 categories and rated them on a 5-star rating. The first of these categories is the racial passive. Each race in this game has a passive ability you get for simply playing as one, and depending on how useful it is, I gave them a star rating of 1 to 5. A passive ability that gives you a great value throughout your entire playthrough will get a 5-star rating, while an ability that will rarely, if ever, come up on your average playthrough will get a 1-star rating. The second category I judged the races of this game off of was their activated ability. You see, every race in this game has a once-a-day activated ability that has no cost to use beyond its insanely long cooldown of 1 in-game day. Activated abilities that you will rarely, if ever, use will get 1 to 2 stars, while abilities that will be invaluable throughout your entire playthrough will again get 5 stars. The third and final category is effectively the everything else category. Pretty much anything that isn't the passive or racial ability you get from this race is going to be considered here. This, in practice, will pretty much boil down to the skill bonuses you get at the start of the game, as well as any bonus racial spells you get. You see, every race in the game gets a plus 5 to 5 different skills and a plus 10 to 1 specific skill in addition to that. Generally speaking, the more annoying these skills are to level up, the more highly ranked they're going to be on this list. In other words, bonuses to enchanting and smithing will be highly praised, while bonuses to weapon skills such as one-handed or two-handed weapons will largely be ignored, because realistically, if you're going to be using one-handed or two-handed weapons, for example, you're going to find yourself leveling that skill far higher than it was at base, regardless of what your racial bonus was. Meanwhile, there are certain skills you may want to have highly leveled up, such as enchanting and smithing, that are going to be quite a pain to get to higher levels. Also, please keep in mind that I will not be considering the lore or flavor of a race whatsoever, so I don't care how cool you think the Argonians look or how deep the lore is about the Dunmer, we are not considering those things here. It's just pure stats, baby. Lastly, please keep in mind this list is more of a tool for those of yinz trying to get over your choice paralysis for your next playthrough, rather than a definitive, this is the best race to play in the entire game and you're shooting yourself in the foot if you pick anything else kind of list. But I believe I've rambled on long enough for this intro, so let's get this list underway here. How yinz doing? I'm an Ian, and this is the top 10 best races to play as in Skyrim. Let's get into it.
Step forward. Who are you?
Coming in at the bottom of this list, we have the furries themselves, the Khajiit. Starting with their passive ability, the Khajiit's passive is their claws. This means their unarmed attacks do 12 extra points of damage. I give this ability a 1 out of 5 stars. While this bonus damage is pretty insane at level 1, it's quite frankly nothing to write home about once you start reaching mid to late game. This is because while 12 extra points of damage does mean the Khajiit's fists are doing a base damage comparable to an ebony sword, you also don't have a lot of ways to increase this damage as you progress through the game, meaning as you start leveling up and enemies start to scale to your power, you're gonna find that your fists are increasingly not that effective. This means unless you're trying to make a gimmicky unarmed build in this game, it's pretty worthless. This is because, unlike previous Elder Scrolls games, unarmed is not actually a skill you can level up whatsoever. This means outside of a single perk in the heavy armor tree and a pair of enchanted gloves under Riften, there's really no way to boost your unarmed damage after you pick the Khajiit. But hey, at least it's better than your activated ability. In fact, your activated ability is so terrible that it's the only activated ability I gave a 0-star rating to. What is your activated ability? Night Vision. For 60 seconds after activating this ability, you can see slightly better in the dark. Given that this ability has no cooldown or magicka cost to it whatsoever, unlike other racial abilities, you think this would be pretty good. The problem is that in Skyrim, the world is pretty well lit. This means unless you're playing with mods that alter the game's lighting in some capacity, this ability is pretty much never going to get any real mileage in-game. As for their starting skills ranking, I give them 3 stars. 2 of these stars come from the fact they get a bonus to alchemy, so if you want to make powerful potions, this will give you a head start. The 3rd star I'm giving them here on this list is the fact that their other starting skill bonuses are effectively just exactly what you want if you want to play a stealth archer or any other stealth-oriented character. Pick the Khajiit if you're doing an unarmed build, or if you want to play as a bipedal cat and don't care about the stats.
Captain, what should we do? He's not on the list.
Forget the list. He goes to the block.
By your orders, Captain.
Next on the list at number 9, we have Redguards. These black men from Atlantis get the passive ability of having 50% damage resistance from poison. I give this passive ability a 1-star rating because while poison resistance is nice, it just doesn't come up very much. In fact, the only time I notice poison being the cause of my health bar going down is when I'm fighting giant spiders, and those stop being a serious threat once you're past level 10, if they were ever a threat to you at all, depending on your build. As for your once-a-day activated ability, it is called Adrenaline Rush. This regenerates your stamina like crazy, making it so that you can easily spam power attacks more than you could with any other character. This is pretty powerful because the game doesn't actually check how much stamina you have left, only that you still have any stamina at all. So if you're using a power attack that uses 20 stamina and you only have 1, you'll still be able to do the power attack as if you had a full bar of stamina. I give this ability a 3-star rating. It only doesn't get a 10 because of 2 caveats. First of all, many character builds in this game will not benefit from your stamina in any meaningful capacity, such as mages or stealth archers. The second, more important caveat is how there are actually in-game items that achieve a similar effect, but to greater results, since it doesn't have a massive cooldown, such as Ven'son's Stew, which does exactly the same thing as your Adrenaline Rush ability, except it also regenerates your HP, and doesn't have a massive cooldown. You just need to craft more of this item every time you use it, and given how the recipe for this item is literally just a piece of venison, a pile of salt, a potato, and a leek, which are all pretty easy to come by in-game, and it becomes increasingly difficult to justify the Adrenaline Rush as anything other than a slightly above average ability. As for your skill bonus rating, I give them a 2-star rating because they get a bonus to smithing and I find that very annoying to level up. But the other skill bonuses are practically worthless because it's just a bunch of different weapon skills and alteration magic, none of which are particularly hard to level up in any meaningful capacity. I mean, seriously, who uses both archery and destruction magic on the same character build? Pick the Redguard if you want to have a backup plan for when you run out of Ven'son's Stew on your warrior build, or if you want to play as a human self-insert and aren't whiter than sour cream like myself.
What in oblivion is that?
Sentry, what do you see?
Well, Captain, it looks like we have some run-of-the-mill Imperials coming in at number 8 on this list. The Imperial's passive ability is finding extra gold in chests and other containers as you progress through the game. The amount of gold you get on a per-container basis tends to be around 2 to 10 typically, which doesn't sound like much, but bear in mind this adds up over time as you play the game. More importantly, this is the only racial passive in Skyrim that has no in-game alternative. For example, many of the other races later on this list have damage resistances to certain elemental types, such as frost or fire damage, which can also be picked up by magic items or potions as you progress through the game. But the Imperial's passive ability has no direct alternative. There is simply no other ability in the game that actually directly increases the amount of gold you will find in containers in the game in any capacity. Because of your lack of alternative abilities for this power, I give the Imperial passive a 3-star rating. Having some extra gold on your playthrough is always nice to have, but it doesn't exactly make Draugr any easier to kill, and it certainly isn't going to help you directly kill a dragon in any way. But more importantly, the true power of money is not the money itself, but the things it can afford you, and quite frankly, most of the best items in all of Skyrim are acquired not through purchasing the best gear, but by crafting it yourself. But even if we ignore what you can create when you have your smithing and enchanting skills maxed out, the best gear in this game is not acquired through merchants, but through quest rewards. Consequently, in my experience, you mostly only use money to acquire houses to store all the awesome stuff you find in your adventures, rather than to actually buy the stuff you'll be using on said adventures. And it's due to the limited usefulness of money relative to pretty much anything else you get as a passive in this game that I cannot give this ability more than a 3-star rating. As for your activated ability, it is called Voice of the Emperor. This once-a-day activated ability has an AoE effect that makes it so that all people around you become calm and unable to attack you for a short time. Useful if you accidentally walk into a vampire lair or a bandit camp and found yourself biting off more than you can chew and need everyone to stop attacking you for a hot minute while you heal yourself. Not so useful when you're getting overwhelmed by something the game does not consider a person, like trolls, cave bears, or dragons. 1-star rating. It's just a panic button for when you end up in a situation you shouldn't have been getting yourself into in the first place. Useful for new players who don't know their limits, useless to everyone else. As for their skill bonus rating, I give them 2 stars. This is mostly because they get a +5 bonus to enchanting, which I find an annoying and tedious skill to level up in-game. But also because you get a +10 to restoration, which means you can pick up perks from the restoration tree far sooner in your playthrough than you would otherwise be able to. Interestingly, the Imperials are the only race who get a +10 to a school of magic, but don't get a bonus spell in said school. I find this rather strange because while you do start with a basic healing spell regardless of what your starting race is, you also start with a basic fire spell. And yet the Dark Elves, who get a +10 in destruction, also get a bonus destruction spell during character creation. But it's too early to talk about the Dark Elves, we gotta cover lucky number 7 first. Coming in at lucky number 7, we have the Wood Elves, or Bosmer as the lore nerds love to call them. Their racial passive is a 2-for-1 special, giving you a 50% resistance to both disease and poison. This means not only will you be taking half the damage you normally would when fighting spiders like the Redguards do, but you're also less likely to get infected with a disease of any kind as you fight stuff. This is usually beneficial, but if you're trying to infect yourself with vampirism, this can actually be detrimental as it makes it much harder to contract the disease. But given how every disease in this game is nothing more than an annoying debuff that you can easily cure at a local shrine at any temple, I can't exactly give the Bosmer a high rating in their passive, 1.5 stars. It's better than the Redguards, but not by much. As for your once-a-day activated ability, it is called Command Animal. This ability allows you to turn a target animal to become your ally temporarily for 60 seconds. Ideal targets for this ability consist of mammoths and bears, but wolves can do in a pinch. This ability can be quite the lifesaver early on in your playthrough since it can turn enemies that would normally be able to utterly wipe the floor with you at low levels, like bears and saber cats, into allies that will fight alongside you. Consequently, I give this ability a 2-star rating. It's quite good early on in the game, but it becomes outclassed as you start leveling up because as the game starts to scale to your level, the enemies that you can actually affect with this power start to become increasingly useless. As for your skill bonuses, I give them a 3-star rating. It's literally the same as the Khajiit, except your +10 is in archery instead of sneak, and your sneak is a +5 instead of a +10. Overall, I'd say the Wood Elves are a great race from a role-playing perspective, but from a min-maxing perspective, they leave much to be desired.
PSA. If you're into tall guys and you see a Bosmer pop up on Tinder, go ahead and swipe left. On to the next race.
Coming in at number 6 on this list, we have the Dark Elves, or Dunmer as the nerds like to call them. Their passive ability is a 50% damage resistance to fire. You know, that thing that mages and dragons will be shooting at you constantly. While this is a downgrade from previous games such as Morrowind where it was actually a 75% resistance, it's still quite good. Just keep in mind that unlike in previous games, it cannot be upgraded into a complete immunity. This is because Skyrim has a damage resistance cap of 85%. This means regardless of what your starting race was, how many potions you chug, or how many powerful enchantments you put onto your armor, when a dragon starts spewing fire directly into your face, you're gonna take some damage. Interestingly, this innate fire resistance can help medicate one of the biggest drawbacks to being a vampire, that being a damage vulnerability to fire damage. This makes Dark Elves, in my opinion, the best race to play for those of you who intend to be a vampire on your next playthrough. 4 stars. Fire resistance is nice, but not every enemy in the game will do fire damage. After all, the Thalmor shoot lightning at you, not fire. But if you want to set the Thalmor on fire, or any other enemies you may come across in this game, you're gonna love your activated ability. It is called Ancestor's Wrath. Simply put, once a day you can engulf yourself in flames that will do damage to anyone who gets too close to you. Useful for ranged characters looking for a way to improve their melee capabilities in the event someone manages to somehow close the gap, but this ability honestly works best for melee-oriented builds that are going to look for ways to enhance their overall damage output. 2 stars. Lastly, your skill bonuses are a strange and seemingly random mix of different schools of magic, sneak, and light armor. Since your +10 is in the school of destruction magic, Bethesda decided to give you a bonus spell in your starting kit when you pick this race, that being the Spark spell. We all remember the Spark spell, you know, that spell that lets you shoot lightning out of your fingertips like Emperor Palpatine and can be found inside that cage in a torturous chamber in Helgen as you go through the tutorial. You know, that spellbook we all picked up as we progressed through the early game unless we chose a mod to skip Helgen entirely. Yeah, they're getting half a star on this. I swear the design in Helgen is so god-awful I could do an entire video on that. In fact, I just might do that. You know what? Yeah, I'm gonna put that on the to-do list. So be sure to like and subscribe if you don't want to miss when I finally get around to making a video about the terrible game design of Helgen. But for now, let's move on to the top 5 on this list.
In summary, be a Dunmer. Whether you are a mage, a warrior, or a thief, you will be able to take comfort in the reality that you are a member of the chosen people.
Just barely making it into the top 5 of this list, we have the Argonians. The Argonians hold a special place in my heart since the first ever character I played through in Skyrim as was an Argonian. These bipedal lizards have not 1, not 2, but 3 passive effects, though the third is not actually mentioned anywhere in-game. The first and most well-known of these passive effects is the fact they can breathe underwater. This ability sounds a lot more amazing than it actually is in practice, because in Skyrim there's not a lot of underwater segments you can actually go to. This means the scenarios where this ability is actually useful are scenarios where you probably went out of your way to make use of it, such as exploring shipwrecks in the ocean in order to get some easy money. The second ability you get is a passive 50% resistance to disease. Same story as the Bosmer. It's a nice ability to have, but given how easy it is to remove diseases in this game, as well as ways to give yourself immunity, such as becoming a werewolf or vampire, it's hard to rate this ability highly in any meaningful capacity. Lastly is a secret hidden ability the Argonians have not mentioned anywhere in-game, their bonus to unarmed damage. You heard that right, just like the Khajiit, the Argonians get a bonus to their unarmed strikes. The damage is inferior to the Khajiit's bonus, however, so if you're trying to do a designated unarmed build for your next playthrough, you're better off playing as the furries. Overall, I give their passives a 2-star rating, collectively. Don't get me wrong, these are good passive abilities to have, but with the exception of the disease resistance, you kinda have to go out of your way to make good use of them. But let's not forget about your racial activated ability. The Argonians is called Histkin. The Histkin activated ability works almost identical to the Redguard's Adrenaline Rush, making you regenerate quickly. The only difference is, instead of regenerating stamina, it regenerates your health. Not only is this ability great because it can help you recover your health so quickly that you become functionally immortal for a few seconds, it's also amazing because unlike restoration spells, you can use this while blocking with your shield. So if you're looking for an easy way to level up your character before you leave a Helgen, just sit in a corner while enemies attack you with your shield up while this ability makes sure your health regenerates so quickly you have no real risk of dying. I give this ability a 5-star rating. Everyone can use an easy way to heal yourself for when you run out of health potions. Sure, there are other ways to heal yourself that don't have a 24-hour cooldown on them, but let's be real here. Out of all the activated racial abilities, this is easily a top 3 contender. Sadly, however, your skill bonuses are some of the worst in the entire game. Your plus 10 is in lockpicking, one of the easiest skills to use in the game. I don't know about yinz, but once this skill gets past 20 and I have more than 20 lockpicks in my inventory, I can pretty much open any container I want. As for your plus 5 bonuses, they are in light armor, alteration magic, restoration magic, pickpocketing, and sneak. All of these skills are kinda like weapon skills in a sense that you're going to either level these up rather quickly or never use them at all. Consequently, the Argonians are the only race to get a perfect 0 score in terms of skill bonuses.
With proper discipline and training, even a low-level Argonian can make an excellent property investment character. Moving on now.
Coming in just shy of the bronze medal at 4th, we have the mead-drinking nutcases we all know and love, the Nords. Your passive ability is a 50% damage resistance to frost. While this is a downgrade from Morrowind, where the Nords got a complete frost immunity, this is compensated for by making it so that frost damage is something you'll actually encounter on a regular basis. And just like with the Dark Elves, you can use potions and enchanted armor to boost this effect even further to the in-game cap of 85%. I give this ability 4 stars. It's an amazing power to have in this game, but let's be honest, not every enemy you fight is going to be doing frost damage, so I can't give it a perfect 5-star score. Next is your activated ability. It is called Battle Cry. This ability works in pretty much exactly the same way as the Imperial's Voice of the Emperor, except instead of calming your opponents, it causes them to run away in fear. This can come in clutch when you're in dire straits against a bandit camp, but given how this doesn't work against undead, constructs, or Dremora, it will prove completely useless to you inside crypts, Dwemer ruins, or anywhere you may or may not face Daedra. Consequently, I give this ability 1 star. As for your skill bonus, I give the Nords a +2 simply because they get a bonus to smithing and I find that a tedious skill to level up. Your other skill bonuses consist of speech and a bunch of different kinds of weapon and armor that you will realistically max out on your own regardless of what your starting race was. All in all, if you want to have good racial bonuses in this game but don't want to be called a min-maxer, the Nords are one of the best races you can pick in this game.
Oh yeah, check out these store-brand Vikings. Nords are the race of choice for players who are upset they weren't born in Iron Age Scandinavia. Because for some reason everyone thinks they would have been Ragnar Lothbrok or some shit if they'd lived back then.
Coming in at 3rd place, we have the Orcs. The Orcs are the only race in the game that don't have any passive ability. No kind of damage resistance, no increase to their unarmed strikes, nothing. absolutely nothing. As for your activated ability, it is one of the most powerful abilities in the game. In fact, it's so powerful that it even outranks most dragon shouts. Once activated, this ability will make it so that for the next 60 seconds you will take half damage and deal double your normal damage output. Save this ability for when you need it most, such as during a tough boss fight or when you find yourself biting off more than you can chew at a bandit camp. 5 stars. Lastly, we have your skills and other miscellaneous bonuses. The orcs are the only race in the game that has a bonus to both smithing and enchanting, the 2 most annoying skills to level up in the entire game. Additionally, the orcs have the only unique racial dialogue in the entire game, where if you head to an orcish stronghold, instead of needing to do a quest for an orc NPC outside of the strongholds to be allowed access, you can actually just walk up to the gates and they'll greet you as one of their own and let you inside. 5 stars. All in all, if you're the kind of player who wants to play on higher difficulties, orcs are one of, if not the best races to play, since your activated ability effectively lets you lower the difficulty without actually lowering the difficulty whatsoever. Taking the silver medal on this list, we have the kings of High Rock themselves, the Bretons. First and foremost is your passive ability, a 25% magic resistance. This easily gets a 5-star rating. But I know what some of yins are now thinking. Why is this guy getting a 5-star rating for a 25% magic resistance when the Nords and Dark Elves had a 50% damage resistance, yet only got a 4-star rating? And the answer to that is quite simple. You see, magic resistance stacks on top of elemental resistances. So for the sake of giving a decent example, let's say a dragon is breathing fire on you. I know your stealth archer character would probably one-shot the thing out of the sky before it ever had a chance to see you, but let's just say it managed to breathe fire on you anyway. You see, a dragon's breath is considered a magical form of attack, which means it goes through both your magic resistance and the elemental resistance. So, you're hit by the dragon's fiery breath, and the game starts calculating damage. First, it will reduce the damage based on what your magic resistance is, and then it will take this reduced number and subtract it again based on your fire resistance. So, for the sake of making the numbers easy to calculate, let's just say the dragon did 100 points of damage, and you are able to stack the effects of the Breton's passive through potions or enchantments to be 50%, and you also got a potion that also temporarily gave you fire resistance at 50%. The magic resistance will reduce this 100 points of damage down to 50 points of damage, and then the fire resistance will reduce this 50 points of damage down to 25 points of damage. This makes the Breton's passive ability the most powerful passive racial ability in the entire game. It's especially true once you realize it's possible to get this passive buffed even further to the maximum in-game cap of 85% magic resist. To achieve this, you'll need to do 3 things. First, you'll need to go to the Lord Standing Stone and use it instead of whatever Standing Stone you were using previously. Secondly, you'll need to max out the magic resistance perk in the alteration skill tree. And lastly, you'll need to get the passive ability of Agent of Mara. This is a power given to you from completing the Book of Love quest. As you probably deduce from the name, you'll have to head to the Temple of Mara in Riften and talk to the Dark Elf Priestess there in order to start this quest. This is a pretty easy quest to do since all you're really doing is playing Matchmaker across Skyrim by talking to a bunch of NPCs. Next is your activated ability. For Bretons, your activated ability is called Dragon Skin. This gives you 50% magicka absorption for the next 60 seconds. Please keep in mind that magic absorption and magic resistance are 2 very different things that play by very different rules. Since the game doesn't do a very good job at explaining how magic absorption works, I'll do so now. You see, magic absorption is very much an all-or-nothing thing. It either triggers and restores your magicka instead of letting you take damage, or it doesn't do anything at all. And the chance of it working is a percentage-based system. So whenever you use this activated ability, you effectively have coin toss odds of either taking damage from a spell or having that spell restore your magicka. But unlike magic resistance, this ability can stack all the way up to 100%. This can be done by picking the Atronach Standing Stone and then activating the racial ability of the Bretons. When you do this for the next 60 seconds until your activated ability wears off, all magical damage dealt to you will instead restore your magicka bar, allowing you to sling spells far more than you normally would be able to. I'd give this a 4-star rating. I only don't give it a 5 for 2 simple reasons. One, if you're facing non-magical foes like bandits or giants, this ability does jack diddly for you, and secondly, in order to get the most out of it, you need to have a specific standing stone, meaning it limits your build options. Still, this is an amazing utility ability to have on hand when you're struggling against a magic caster, Lastly is your skill bonuses. The Bretons get a bonus to a variety of different schools of magic, as well as speech. Since your plus 10 bonus is in the School of Conjuration, you start the game with the Conjure Familiar spell. This basic conjuration spell lets you summon a spectral wolf to help fight on your side. This is especially useful on higher difficulties since having an extra body on the field on your side can be quite invaluable since every hit they send at the wolf is one hit not being sent at you. But if you're serious about leveling Conjuration early in your playthrough, I recommend just grabbing the Raise Zombie spell at the Riverwood Trader as soon as you can. The undead are typically not as strong as the Atronachs you can summon in this school of magic, but they help you level up the skill far faster. And most creatures that you'll be resurrecting with this spell will be stronger than the wolf you can summon with the Conjure Familiar spell. As a result, I give the Breton's skill bonuses a 1-star rating. All in all, if you're trying to min-max the perfect character for this game, and the orc and the number 1 spot on this list don't suit your playstyle, the Bretons are your best option.
It's okay to be smarter than everybody, but you can't go around pointing it out.
Why not?
Because people don't like it.
Coming in at number 1, to no surprise to anyone who was actually paying attention to the video and didn't just skip to the end to see what the number 1 was, we have the High Elves, or Altmer as the lore nerds like to call them. Now, I've heard some people online try to argue that they are the best race because they're taller than the other playable races and therefore move around the map faster and will situationally do more damage than the other races. But as someone who has quite extensively played both the Altmer and the Bosmer in this game, I can tell you with first-hand certainty that unless you're doing some sort of side-by-side comparison, you will never be able to notice such a difference in-game. If it even exists in-game, that is. No, indeed. In fact, the reason that High Elves are so high on this list is due to everything else they have going for them. First and foremost is your racial passive. The High Elves have a permanent Fortify Magicka of 50 points. This is the equivalent of starting the game 5 levels ahead of everyone else. Minus the skill points, of course. I give this ability 4.5 stars. It's an amazing ability to have at the start of the game, especially for anyone who intends to be playing a full-blown mage. And even if you don't intend to be a magic-oriented character, it can still be useful since everyone starts with a basic healing spell at the start of the game, and this passive allows you to cast that for longer, which means you can heal yourself for more. Next, of course, is your activated ability. The High Elf activated ability is called Highborn. It lets you regenerate your magicka rather quickly. It's literally the same as the Argonian's Hiskin or the Adrenaline Rush of the Redguards, except instead of health or stamina respectively, it regenerates your magicka. I give this ability a 3-star rating. It's quite invaluable for pure mages who need a way to recover their magicka in the heat of combat, but for everyone else it's something of a mid ability that will only sometimes be useful. Hell, pure warrior builds will pretty much never find a good use case for this power. The last thing we need to cover with the Altmer is their skill bonuses. They get a bonus to every school of magic. Not only does this mean they have a bonus to the enchantment skill, but since their plus 10 ability is in the School of Illusion, it means you start with a bonus spell. In this case, a personal favorite spell of mine, Fury. Fury is a novice-level illusion spell that makes it so that the target hit by this spell will violently attack everything nearby. This can be quite a fun spell to play around with if you use it alongside stealth and necromancy. This is because you can effectively sneak into a bandit camp, have the bandits kill each other, and then have the losers of these 1v1 fights come back as zombies to continue killing each other. By the way, did you know the Riverwood Trader always sells a bunch of novice spells at the start of the game, including this illusion spell as well as the Raise Zombie conjuration spell? Due to my personal bias, hatred of leveling up the enchanting skill, as well as the general quality of life of mages getting a head start with this race, and most importantly, having one of my favorite early game spells at the start of the game, I give them 3 stars. But I know some of yinz might disagree. In fact, some of you might be arguing that I shouldn't have been considering skill bonuses and starting spells whatsoever. And while I do disagree with this viewpoint, I completely understand where they're coming from. So here on screen now, I'll show you what the top 10 would have been if I only gave star ratings to their activated and passive abilities. I am partly doing this because the hardest thing about making this list was not putting the Altmer at the bottom of this list out of spite towards the Thalmor, but mostly because I just wanted to make people look like complete dumbasses down in the comments when it becomes quite obvious they didn't watch the video all the way through. But that's going to be all for now. Be sure to like this video if you did, comment what you want to see me cover in the future, and subscribe if you don't want to miss the next video I upload. I've been Ian, you have been you, and this has been the top 10 best races to play in Skyrim. Thank you for watching.